and the Levium are around Rishon. That makes you 11.
Okay, so we're in the middle of the sugya of what's it called? Eight zomim. Ilmafreo nifsal or mekam lebo nifsal. And as was explained yesterday, I wasn't here, but Rav Pinchas explained that Edim said testimony. Then later on, they were found to be Edim zomim, which means that they were schemers, planners, and they framed somebody by saying testimony which they weren't even there. It's not relevant even if it's true or not. It means true means the fact could have been true. Let's say they said somebody stole. In our cases, it'll be about Ganei, but let's say it's true, but they didn't know about it. So they're called Edim Zomamin, and they're punished the same way whatever they wanted to do. So when did they become puzzle? Now we know that they're puzzle because they said testimony on Sunday, and now whatever. Rashi gives the case of Nisan and Eeyore, but even if 2 days later, so they said testimony on Sunday, and then on Monday, Edim came, or make it Tuesday, we'll put something in between, Sunday and Tuesday. So they said testimony on Sunday, and Edim were found to be Edim Zoman on Tuesday. From when are they puzzle? Are they puzzle from when they said the testimony on Sunday, or only from when the Bezdin, when the Mazimim came, when the other Edim came and said in Bezdin that they're puzzle, and they were found to be Zomamin? So the Chiddush Pashas would be the Mafreya from the time that they said the testimony, like any time that they found to be liars. But Rabbi says not that only puzzle from the time that Bezdin puzzled them. And the Gemara says two possible reasons. One reason is because Edim Zoman is a Chiddush. The fact that you believe the second Edim is not Pashut because it's 2 against 2. Why should you believe them? And the fact that the Torah believes the second one is a Chiddush, but the Chiddush only says from the time that they became puzzled, not retroactively.
I don't hear that's a Pashut because once he's saying the Chiddush, say it all the way.
How could you do it halfway? Tyson also points out that you're not going to say that only puzzle for the Sedus, but there's kosher Edim. Maybe from now on we could continue accepting them as Edim. No, for sure not. That you say ain't. It's a you don't say. But Tosis understands why it's different. I don't understand, like you're saying, that if you say that you have to believe them, so once the Torah believed them, so how could you say that they were not the Mafreya? That's one reason of Rava. I don't know. And the second reason is to say that the Lakuchos means that anytime they should really be puzzled retroactively, but then it's going to come out a loss for many people that don't know in between that they were really puzzled, and they're going to make deals. So that's a very interesting thing that they really puzzled them, but just for practical reasons, we're going to make that the Lakucha shouldn't lose out by using these Edim, and then it's going to come out that they weren't going Edim, and it wasn't a good. They're not going to have good proof to their sale, to that transaction.
Because in the meantime, if the Edim, let's say for a chasana, they have a big problem.
Right. So Tosha says that. Tosha points out that according to the first reason, everyone it's agreed only by Edim Zomin is going to, but regular Edim that are found to be real puzzle. So according to the second teretz, Rav also agrees Edim Zoman are really puzzle retroactively. Just we can't take care of the Lakuchas. But Taisa says that it doesn't apply to many other things, only to money issues. Here Taisa says that the Gemara could have said all that. The Gemara says some nafkaminas if it would be because Lanusa wouldn't be Edim Zoman. Taisa points out over here. Where's that? You must have in the first look at all that. In the first and let's say Shalabaila, Kedushin, Edis Achodesh, all kinds of other Edis. They really posted them afraid. The time of the Chiddush and the posted them afraid. The time of the Pesach de la Kuchas posted them afraid. But they more wanted to say a case even the Gabi Mominus. So Taisa says according to this reason that it's only Pesach de la Kuchas. They really posted. They really are posted them afraid, and it's a big problem. They had the case over there, not even Asugya. You had Goyim, the Goyim who forged themselves as Jews, and there was somebody over there in Givat Tzarfatit, and he made himself like a big rabbi, and really he was a guy, and he was a moel and a Magasar the Kedushin and all kinds of things. So all the people are messed up that they have to. There was a guy.
There's no suffix, but that's
you're not going to say. They're not going to go there and say only we found out now.
Wow.
So that happens sometimes. Some should watch over us. So in the middle of that sugya. So that's went back a little bit to recap. The more passing by the way, Yalki Gam is the one. This is probably Yalki Gam is going.
Can you hear me?
From the Gemara. Yes, please.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I have this clear. If the Adim testified on Sunday about something, and on Tuesday,
right,
other Adim come and say that they were Zomimim regarding Sunday, correct? And then the question is, they say that he couldn't have done that on Sunday because they were with with us, and we weren't there on Sunday. He couldn't have
Not
seen.
again, not that they couldn't. You couldn't have testified what you saw on Sunday in Yerushalayim because you weren't in Yerushalayim on Sunday. You were with us in Bnei Brak.
Yeah, and then the question about Lemafreya is going to be about Monday, correct? Like then if they went ahead
Right.
Monday, that's the okay, because when you said and on
Right.
Tuesday they came and said they were Zomim, you didn't say about what. There's Zomim
Right.
about what happened on Sunday,
on
and then
Sunday.
Monday is
Right.
the question. Okay.
Right. And then the question is, are they apostle from Sunday or from Tuesday only? Correct. And yesterday there was a proof from our Mishnah, and we got out that already. So
I don't know you said that. I don't think that's right. For sure, there's Zomim from Sunday, on Sunday. But the question is, are they now on Tuesday going to be considered Zomim? It's in the future from today and on, or is Monday also included? Isn't that the kasha? Nothing about Sunday. It's about Monday or Tuesday.
From when are they apostle? Now we found out that they're Zomim on Sunday. Does that make them apostle from Sunday, or does it only make them apostle from Tuesday?
Okay.
That's true. We're saying the same thing?
Yeah, we're saying the same thing. Okay.
Okay. Let me continue. The Gemara thinks that has a brisa which will show that this issue of a blind rubber is a machlokes tanan. If the Eidim Zomim are going to be apostle retroactively from the time that they said the testimony, or only from the time that the Bezdin convicted them. Here's a brisa. How you shnayim with a starting? Let me continue. How you shnayim with the Mosor Shaganav? They need Mosor Shatavach. The same two Eidim that said that Ruvain stole, they also say that he slaughtered. So they come to say that it's chayv al pay. Chayv hey, let's say it's an ox. So it says chayv to pay. Ruvain's chayv to pay 5 times the ox because he stole and he slaughtered it. And then the case is who's more gneva. Then came and said that at the time that you said that he stole, you weren't even there, so you couldn't have testified. So on this, the Brisa says, so the testimony that they said about the slaughtering is irrelevant, even though they testified 2 testimonies that he stole and that he slaughtered. The fact that they're already knocked off on the stealing, and they would have to pay kefil. These Eidim that wanted to be mechayiv, this Ruvain, they wanted to be mechayiv him kefil because he stole, so they do have to pay kefil. But the Eidus that they said about the slaughtering is irrelevant because the first Eidus about the stealing was knocked off. So even though that would be a scheme, that the scheme is the same evil scheme, but since it wouldn't have been a good testimony, in a sense, it wouldn't have been relevant. The testimony about the slaughtering is irrelevant because if he didn't steal just because you saw somebody slaughter an ox doesn't mean anything. It's only if he slaughtered the ox after it was stolen. So if the fact that it was stolen is already crossed out, that there's no testimony about that. So the fact that you testified that he slaughtered doesn't mean anything, and they're not going to have to pay the extra 3. They're only going to pay for the double that they wanted to cause them. That was Hazama, but the fact that they testified doesn't have any, it's not a good testimony. So for the not for the testimony that they were found Huzam on that also. And also the person who was testified against, he surely doesn't have to pay that. And he doesn't have to pay anything. The one who, this Ruvain that they were coming to attack and say that he stole and he slaughtered, if he didn't steal, so then it doesn't make a difference if he slaughtered. It could be a slaughtered ox, but it wasn't a stolen ox. Okay, that's so far simple. The Brisa continues, that again, he testified, they testified on the stealing and on the slaughtering, and they were not huzam on the stealing, only on the tvicha. So it could be that he very well did steal. There's Eidim that said that he stole and he slaughtered, and the part of slaughter we were cross out was that they weren't there to be able to testify. They said they slaughtered on a certain day, they weren't there. But as far as the Geneva that they testified, it could be that they're true. So it says, so that the original, I don't know what the word is called, victim, the one, not the one who was a suspect, the Ganav, the Ruvain, that it was the Ganav. So he does have to pay kefil because the testimony on the kefil on the Geneva was not knocked off. Right. They have to pay tashlumei shlosha because they wanted to be mechayiv the Ganav an extra 3, and that was Huzam, so they have to pay shlosha. And the Gemara's issue is going to be on this case. What's emphasized in blue The Tanna Kamma says that he still has to pay kefil because they weren't knocked off. Edom said stole ganav and tabach, and they were husam on the tvicha, but the edus on the geneva is still standing.
We said that Abaya says that it retroactively. The
So that's what the Gemara is going to go into, I think.
whether it was this.
This will only be true if it will be two edios, which the Gemara is going to go to explain what these words mean. If they testified, I'll just jump to the maskana, just to make it easier. That if it would have been one testimony, they said it together. If the Gemara is going to explain, it's going to take the Gemara's time to figure this out. But the Gemara is going to read it that they only agreed to you if they said both testimonies at different times. They said first ganav, then they came in a couple of days later and they said tabach. First they said that he stole, then they said later on we even saw that he also was slaughtered. And then we say that the first testimony is still kaim, even though they were on the second testimony, but they weren't knocked off on the first testimony. The first testimony is still good. But if it would have been, they said it together. They said it ganav v'tabach, ganav v'yom rishon, v'tabach v'yom shlishi, v'yom sheni, whatever it was. They said two testimonies simultaneously about when he stole and when he slaughtered. So over there, Yossi says that the first edus is also off. Since they were huzam on the testimony that they said about the slaughtering, so the testimony that they said about the stealing is also off. And the Gemara is going to see from this why it must be the mafreya hu nifsal and tokeli dibu kedibu dami. I'll just put it. The Gemara is going to take a long time to say this, but just to make it easier, the Gemara is going to say Yossi was told that they become puzzled from the time that they said the testimony. And they said the testimony, so they said that he stole and he slaughtered. And the slaughter, that was the part they became puzzled. So when they said that they slaughtered, that's when they became puzzled. So if you say toch kedei dibur kedibu dami, so then they're puzzled also toch kedei dibur backwards. Not only toch kedei dibur forwards, toch kedei dibur. So if they became huzam at the time that they testified at 149, they testified he stole. And then they continued talking, 49 and 15 seconds. They testified that he slaughtered, and they became puzzled from the time that they said that he slaughtered. So he's talking 15 seconds backwards, they were also puzzled. So when they said Ganav, they were puzzled with them, and therefore the whole Edus is off. That's what the Gemara wants to say in Rabbi Yossi, that from Rabbi Yossi who says that the puzzle on the testimony of stealing, which was said before the testimony of slaughtering, which was found hazama, and they're still puzzled on the first. It must be because they became puzzled, and also talking backwards. You can go backwards also when something happens. So talking was considered the same unit of time, and they became puzzled even beforehand. But why should they be puzzled at all from the time of their testimony? If you hold them mechanical bone, if so, they're only puzzled from the time that the Adam Zolman came later on. They came to be Muslim then. So you must know that they're puzzled from the time that they testified, and even talk to the book of the And the Tanna Kamma says they're not puzzled. Tanna Kamma says that the testimony about the stealing is still valid. It must be. The Gemara is going to ask that it must be that they hold mechanical bone, if so, that it doesn't become puzzled from the time that they testified, only from the time that the testimony came against them when they were convicted. That's going to be the Gemara in short. But the Gemara first doesn't know that because it isn't so clear. When it says Eidus Achas and Shtei Eidus, it doesn't. I said it means if they said Eidus at the same time, or they said Eidus in two different times. But the Gemara has to figure that out, and the Gemara is going to take time. It's going to go slowly. My B'Shtei Eidus, my Eidus Achas. What do these words mean? Rabbi Yoshi says the difference between two testimonies and one testimony. If you mean literally, that means two sets of Eidim. Means the Brisa started off talking about the same Eidim said that he stole, and the same Eidim said that he slaughtered. And then Rabbi Yoshi says, I only agree to you if it would have been two sets of Eidim. Not like you said, one set of Eidim. One set of Eidim, the whole thing is possible. Two sets of Eidim, I would agree to you that if the second set of Eidim was found Zomamin, that doesn't make the first set of Eidim. So if the first set of Eidim said that they're gone up, that's still a regular Eidim. Is that what he means? If two Eidos, the word two Eidos means two Eidos mamish, which means two groups of Eidim, and Eidos Achas will mean one group of Eidim, but even Bezachas, even if it wouldn't have been testified simultaneously, they didn't testify the two testimonies right after each other. That's also called Eidos Achas, and it says over there that Eidos is Batel, The more is very long, not regular way the Gemara talks. And if Yossi says, in this case, of Edus Achas, the Katachas, which means Edus Achas means one group of Edim that said it together. Ki Misadi Ageneva, but the Misadi Atvicha, when they only were Huzam on the Geneva, that was the first case over there, right? That's the case I didn't make in the group. Geneva first, and then Tvicha. Ki Misadi Ageneva, the Misadi Atvicha, Ki Mitzmi Atvicha, Edish Batal Miksasa Batal Kula, Mitzmi Lahu Ageneva, Meichetesi Hach. I think I didn't get these words. Please help me. What does it say over here? In the case where they testified, maybe I said it wrong. They testified on the Geneva, then they testified on the Tvicha. No, I'm sorry, he's going on the blue. I'm sorry, I thought that's going on the case before. It's going on the case that says that they were they testified on the stealing, then they testified on the Tvicha, and then they who's on Tvicha. And if you're going to say Be'edus Achas means when they said it together,
Right.
They testified on the stealing, then they testified on the slaughtering, and then they huzam on the tvicha. We're going to say they're going to become huzam also on the geneva. Why should that be so? I'm not following myself. Edus Achas, Rabbi Yossi said, I agree. The Edus Achas, I'm going to say the whole Edus is off. I'm sorry, I got mixed up. Edus is Bezach Hazeh. I'm sorry. Bezach Hazeh means that they didn't say it together. The Gemara at this point is saying that Shtei Edios means two groups of Edim, and Edus Achas means one, the same Edim, but it doesn't mean that they said Edus together. They said it Bezach Hazeh, means they said it separately. They came in one day and they said Geneva, and then 2 days later they came in and said Tvicha. And then they were found to be Huzam on the Tvicha. Is that a reason why the first Edus shouldn't be good?
Right.
That's got mixed up with the word Zachazeh, and we're saying Zachazeh means together. It doesn't mean, it means separately. Okay, that's question. So if the Pshat Edus Achas means, even if it was said separately, the two Edios that they said, the two testimonies that they said were said separately on 2 different days, let's say, and a verse is going to say that once they became Huzam on the second Edus, they become Batal, their Edus on the first Edus is also no good. Why should that be? That's because they became Pasul on a testimony that they said later. Why does that make them Pasul 2 days earlier? Elalav doesn't mean that. When the words when it says Shtei Edios or Edus Achas, it doesn't mean 2 groups of Edim, 1 group of Edus. It means all of them is talking about the same group of Edim. But did they say it together or they say it separately? Shtei Edios means Be'edus Achas Ke'en Shtei Edios. It means that it was one group of testimony, but it was similar to 2 testimonies because it wasn't said together. Remind you, Katachas B'Zech Hazeh. That's what it says. I agree to you. If it was 2, the same Edim, but they testified stolen, and then later on, a couple of days later, they testified Tavach, and they were found to be Huzam on the Tavach. So then I agree that the first Edim is still Kaim, and they have to pay guys to pay kefil because there's good Edim that are testified that he stole. But Edus Achas, Bas Achas, lo. But that's what he says. In this case, if it would be that they said it together, they said it 2 Edios together. They said Gana B'Tavach. They said Gana B'Yom Yishon, the Tavach on a different day, but they said the testimony at the same time. That's what Rabbi Yossi says. So the more I figured out, that's what Rabbi Yossi means to say when he distinguished between Edus Achas and Edios. He meant to say if they said the testimony together or they said the testimony separately. This Avruah, the Kul Yam L'Tokli Dibur Kedibur Dami. The Gemara is assuming the people that are Beshmet should brought this raya. They said Katanoi. They understood that everybody holds Tokli Dibur Kedibur Dami, which means the time. Tokli Dibur means while you're talking, a very short period of time that. As you're talking, which the Gemara is going to say later on, it's a couple of seconds. I said before 15 seconds, that's much too much. It said. Shalom Alecha Rebbe, Shalom Alecha, or Shalom Alecha Rebbe Yomori. It's a couple of seconds. I don't know, 2 seconds. I don't know what it is, but it's very short. But they're assuming that when a person is saying a whole speech, everything is called Tokli Dibur. Even if it talks for 5 minutes, the whole thing is called Tokli Dibur. So this testimony that he said, the Edom said testimony about 2 things, and the second thing was found to be false. Is he going to be puzzled on the first thing that he said? And the Gemara and this machlokes is going on over here. If there's machlokes, if he's puzzled on the first testimony that he said, Rabbanan Savi Mekana Labon if so. Rabbanan say that they only become puzzled from the time that they're convicted, not from the time that they said the testimony. Only when they are found to be Zomerman. So therefore, the whole latest that they said is Lakosha Mekana Labon. But from when the Bezdin found out that there's Zomerman, so now we consider them puzzled. Of course, that testimony that they said that it was slaughtered, we don't accept that. That was what they were who's about, but they don't become puzzled from then. So therefore. their edus on the Geneva is still good. The chiva the mahishaita kamitzami at vicha the kamitzami yitzum agneva the lo mitzum. Since they only become possible mikanalaba, so whatever the hazam was about is hazama. On the tvicha, on the fact that he said it was slaughter, that there was hazama, so that's the hazama. But on the geneva that there was no hazama, so then therefore it's a good edus. Then we're going to accept the edus that they said that is chayiv to pay, and he has to pay kefil. And Rabbi Yossi says, "Lemafreyon ifsal." It must be Rabbi Yossi has to Lemafreyon ifsal. Let's make it a little bit smaller. First wide line. V'chivan demiyad ki yasidu hu demifsali ki it's a mulu atvicha it's a mulu nam yagneva toch dedibu kedibu dami. It must be also he holds that when they testify they become possible. I'm afraid from the time that they testified, and when they testified on the tvicha on the slaughtering, which was the second part of their sentence, that the tvicha happened on a certain time and they who's them about that, they become possible from then, and toch dedibu backwards also. So when they said that it was stolen, that also is not a good edus, and therefore we don't accept the testimony of Geneva, and the guy's not going to be hyped careful either. That's how Rabbi Yossi held. So the more things that I found the Tanoi, Ad Khan, but this till here, the Gemara thinks that we found the Tanoi. What happened? There was a brisa between the Tanakh and Rabbi Yossi. If the Eidim, after the Gemara figures it out, it says that the same Eidim, they said two testimonies, and the Tanakh says always the first testimony is still good. They were Huzam on the second testimony, and they weren't Huzam on the first half of the testimony. And the Tanakh holds that the first testimony is still acceptable, and Rabbi Yossi says that the first testimony is also not acceptable. You must see, Rabbi Yossi must tell the Mafreya that it becomes possible from the time of the testimony, and also perfectly dimo backwards. And the Tanakh holds that only possible from the time of the conviction, not the time that they said the testimony. So therefore, they were still kosher Edom at that time. So the more things that I found in Machlokas Abaye and Rav, but the Machlokas Tanun. Tanakh is going to be like Abaye. I'm sorry, Rav, become Labon himself, and Rabbi Yossi is going to be like Abaye, that not my favorite himself. The Gemara says you gave away you gave it away that it's not muchach. Army they said in the Besmedrash that maybe lav toch de dibur. He talked the dibur kedibu dami to kul yamal amafreu nifsal. I could say Tanakh also has amafreu nifsal. The Gemara is agreeing. You're right that Rabbi Yossi must hold amafreu nifsal. If the Rabbi Yossi says that the first testimony is not good, for sure he's holding the Mafreya. If you say it's only possible from the time of the conviction, so nothing to do with the time that they said the testimony. So you're right, that part for sure you're right, that Rabbi Yossi holds Torkli Dibur, he holds the Mafreya Nifsal and also Torkli Dibur. That's true. But you don't have a right that Rabbanan holding Kanal Rabban Nifsal. We can just take away the other ingredient. You have to have two ingredients in order to say that they're possible on the first testimony. But if you say that you don't know the Mafreya, you don't know the Torkli Dibur, so it's true that they're possible from the testimony, but only possible from the time that they said the testimony. That was false. And that was the second testimony. They said the Ganap Vitavach. So the Vitavach is not true, and they were Huzam, but that doesn't make it. They should be possible Mafreya backwards. It shouldn't be possible backwards. So it is true halfway. Mizabai is on the win. The Gemara thought that the Machlokas you have a Tanakh at least is going to be like Rava, and the Gemara says you don't see that either. It could be everybody else like Abaye, and that's how we pass in Yalkigan. We pass in the Mafreya. And the Machlokas here is if you say Torkli Dibur backwards. Allah Torkli Dibur Kedibur the Kamiflagi. The Bonan Savi Torkli Dibur on the days Lav Kedibur Dami. It could be that the only reason why they said that's a good testimony about the Genvar is because that was before, even though it was a couple of seconds only, but it was before the testimony of the Tvicha, and that's why even though they're possible from the time of the Tvicha, they're not possible from the time a second before that they said about the Gneva. That's true. And he also holds them a fair on their side. Adkan, that's the end of the sugi really. The Gemara is a side problem now that it's not our subject, but it's muchach for sure that Rabbi Yossi holds Torah Kedibur. That doesn't change. If Rabbi Yossi holds that the apostle from the time of the testimony and even before that, they must hold Torah Kedibur. And that the Gemara is going to ask means, and either way, the Gemara just matcha what the Rabbanon hold, but Rabbi Yossi for sure has to hold Torah Kedibur Dami, and that the Gemara is going to challenge. That we see someplace else where Rabbi Yossi doesn't hold the Torah Kedibur Dami. So I put in parentheses because it's not our subject. But it is necessary to explain the Brisa over there. How come he becomes puzzle from the time that he said Ganav if he only became really puzzle from when he said Tavach? And Rabbi Yossi doesn't know Torch Lidibur. That's the most kasha. For some Rabbi Yossi Torch Lidibur Kedibur Dami, does he hold like that? That unit of time is considered one, but not. Somebody said a statement. He wanted to make Tamura. Tamura is not allowed to do this. To make Tamura. Tamura means that you exchange a korban. Yeah, the carbon. This is a carbanola. Now you want to make a different one. You want to switch it. So you say that this animal should be instead of that animal. I raise that to Murazeh. So first of all, it says you're not allowed to do that. You're not supposed to switch a carbon. But if you do, it takes effect. It's not very to do it, but if you do it, it takes effect. Then both of them are carbonas. Here he fancy guy. He said, "Harezu Tamura Sola Tamura Shlomim." There's a Tamura. You had a carbanola, and you said on an animal of Chulin Zeh Kazeh. Harezu Tamura Zeh, so it becomes an Ola. If you had a Shlomim, and you said this animal Chulin should be like this, it becomes a Shlomim. He said it should be both. Harezu Tamura Sola Tamura Shlomim. You had an animal of Chulin, and you said it should be both. He didn't say the word both. He said Harezu Tamura Sola Tamura Shlomim. So what does it become? A Tamura Sola is supposed to be what is a carbanola. A Tamura Shlomim is supposed to be as a carbon Shlomim. And he said it's a Tamura Sola or Shlomim. What do you do with this guy? What do you do with this animal? So Tana Kamma, I raised with Tamura Solo to Rameh says the first thing that he said that takes effect. Second thing doesn't take effect. Once it's a Tamura Solo, so it's a carbanola. So it's not a Shlomim. I think the Gemara could have said the same thing also by I raise a Ola, I raise a Shlomim. I don't know why he talks about the Tamura daf. What would have been the original animal? He says about a certain animal that it should be a Ola, Shlomim. So what is it? I'm not sure, but here it talks about a Tamura. So Meir says the first thing that he says takes effect, then the second one can't take effect because it's already taken. It's not vacant. It's already a kodesh animal. You can't say all should be a shlama. Rav Yossi Omer, im lekach neskavim letchila, hol v'yev shelikro shnei shtei muskechot v'av kayamim. If he really meant to make them both, he really meant there should be both. But he can't. But he's a human being. He can't say two things at the same time. Achas divo lekim shtaim zu shamati. Hashem by Ashina says that he said two things at the same time. But a human being can't do that. So he really meant to say both of them, but he couldn't because he only has one mouth. So then it becomes both. It's really the word it becomes both. And Rashi says, what do? You wait till he gets a mum and you settle it, then you have the money, you divide the money in two, and you do that for Ola and the Shlomim. But he does say that you say both. If he really, when he said Tumuras Ola, he did mean only an Ola. He didn't mean to say both. He meant to say only an Ola. But right away he changed his mind, he said Shlomim. The moment he changed his mind. Then I raise it to more soda. Then I agree to you that it's only an Ola, even though he changed his mind. And the Gemara thinks, the Gemara's going to talk about now, does it mean he changed his mind? How much time did it take between first saying it's an Ola, then he changed his mind and he said it's a Shlom? How much time was it? The Gemara says, that's the end of the Brisa or Mishnah over there. Mishnah. And Vavinon Bo, we asked on this Mishnah, Nimlach Pshita. That goes without saying. Somebody says it's an Ola. 2 days later, he comes back and says that it's a Shlomim. Of course, it's not Shlomim. That's not. Rabbi Yossi wouldn't have said that. But I'm not Papa. There's a Chiddush over here. Nimlach B'torch Dibur coming in. We're talking about that Mamish Torch Dibur. He changed his mind, but since when he said it, he had in mind for the Ola only. Even though Torch Dibur, he changed his mind. Too late. It's only an Ola. So the Gemara asks, he's from here. Torch Dibur is not Kedibur Dami. That's the most kasha. In our brisa where it says that when he was huzam on the tvicha, then he's possible even torch kedibur before when he said the geneva. Rabbi Yossi holds torch kedibur is kedibur dami. And over here that he said after Gemara explains the chiddush that if he said Hareza Ola, even torch kedibur, he changed his mind and he said Shlomim, it's too late. It's already an Ola. So you see that you don't say torch kedibur kedibur dami because if he would, he'd still be able to make the change and make that it should be both or only a Shlomim. He should be able to change his mind. Torch kedibur. So you see, it's too late. That's the kasha. Answer, Amri. They said the answer. Trey, thank you. Trey Tokli Dibur heavy. There are two kinds of Tokli Dibur. Chad Kedei Shelos Talmud Rav, but Chad Kedei Shelos Rav Talmud. How long does it say to say Shalom? Kedei Dibur means so. This is a question. Why this is? What is Shalom? What does that have to do with anything? I don't really know. I'll say in a second. But the time that it says to say hello to somebody, that's called Tokli Dibur. And there's difference how a Talmud addresses his Rebbe, how a Rebbe addresses his Talmud. The Rebbe says to the Talmud, Shalom Alecha. Or like to anybody, he says Shalom Alecha. And the Talmud says to the Rebbe, with more Derech he says Shalom Alecha, Rabbi, Mori. So that takes about how much longer?
Double his amount. If you're getting, is it Rebbe or Rebbe B'Mori?
The Gemara says Rebbe Mori. I'm not sure about
So
that.
it's double. It's 4 words instead of 2 words.
Okay, and how many seconds is it? Not seconds. They're talking about split seconds over here. Shalom Alecha. How long is that? I don't know how to count it. Shalom Alecha is nothing.
I always have a shayla. What do you do with suffix?
Okay, and then there's a longer slow Torch Dibur or Shalom Alecha B'Mori, which is also like I don't know. I don't know.
It's very hard to estimate.
I don't know anything. And so the Gemara says that all he means to say. There's a long one. There's a short one. The short one he holds up. The short one is Mamish Torch Dibur Shalom Alecha. That's Rabbi Yossi holds out that one. And that's the case over here that he's talking about the Geneva and the Tvicha. They kept on talking. There was no hefsek. He said, so well, that's an easy one. There was no hefsek. He was talking and he said, I saw him sleep on this and this day, and he slaughtered on the other day. He doesn't have to talk fast. He's just talking without stopping. So he agrees to that. But if it would have been a stop, the long time that it takes to say Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Amori means, in other words, more than Shalom Aleichem, that he doesn't hold it. It could be others hold even of that also. It could be this talk they did, but others are going to hold that Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Amori is considered still one. The Mishnah doesn't hold that. So the case over here where it said a Chiddush, that talk they did, you can't change your mind. It doesn't mean talk they did mamash. If he would have said, Areza Tmuas Ola, Tmuas Shlamim, he stopped in the split second. Mamish, a split second, he stopped. He really meant Ola. Then he said, no, Shlamim. So, that Rabbi would agree that it's going to become both, or he changed his mind because he also agrees talk Dibu Kadibu. But he had meant that it was a drop longer, so therefore he can't change his mind anymore. The Bryce before Bayas is talking about with the Geneva and the Tvicha that he said Mamish talk Dibu. Over there, Yossi holds that he becomes possible even from the time of the talk Dibu before that.
Excuse me, I missed out what the word denapish. What is denapish?
No, but I did. You're right. I didn't say it yet. The Nafish Kedei Shelas Harav, the Talmud. I'm sorry. Let's see the inside. Chad Kedei Shelas Talmud L'Rav. Chad Kedei Shelas Harav L'Talmud. He less later Rav Yossi Kedei Shelas Talmud L'Rav, which is Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Amori. That he doesn't hold up. But the Nafish,
Because it's very long.
it's very long. It's big, right? The word Nafish means big, a lot. Harbe. Kedei Shelas Harav L'Talmud Shalom Aleichem is slave. But the time that it says for a Rav to say to his Talmud, which is only Shalom Aleichem, that he does hold up. So what happened? We just finished the sugya of eight zomim, the mafreya nifsal of Obikandu Labon nifsal. Abai is the one who says the mafreya nifsal is possible retroactively, and even though usually we don't pass like Abai against Rava, only 6 cases in Shas. This is one of the 6. This is the ayin of Yal Kigam, eight zomim, mafreya nifsal, and the Gemara tried to. Rava says Bikandu Labon nifsal. The Gemara question why? Nafkamina, is it because it's a chiddush? Eight zomim is a chiddush, or because say the lakuchos? And even that, so this says many times, Rav is also going to agree with Mafreya and Nifsal. But anyway, we pass like Abaye or Mafreya and Nifsal. The Gemara tried today reading Machlokes Tanam about it. The case of somebody testifying Ganav and then Tabach, and then he's found to be a Zomim on the Tavicha. And the question was, is he possible also on the Geneva that he testified? And Rav Yossi says that he's possible on the Geneva also because he holds the Mafreya and Nifsal, and also Turkey Dibur, so he's possible also even before he testified the bad testimony. And the Rabbanan also could agree to that he's possible Mafreya from the time they testified, but they don't hold that the Torah they dibur. Even if it was Shalom Aleichem. And therefore, they hold that the testimony on the Geneva was still good. But everybody else the Mafreya on Nifsal. And that's the halacha that eight zomim, Mafreya on Nifsal, surely a regular Eidim of Gazlanim or whatever it might be, that they're not apostle only from the conviction, they're apostle retroactively from the time that they testify. New sugya. Amar Rava, Eidim shehukhashu l'basov huzmu. They're rugging. So, what if you have Eidim that are apostle Eidim, and they testified? This is partial to the Gemara that if Eidim, the apostle Eidim, mamish apostle Eidim, and they testified something which was they weren't even there, and they were on to be mechayiv somebody, whatever, money, the penalty, and then they are found to be zomermen. Since their testimony was not a good testimony, so they're not going to be zomermen. This was yesterday also. This was the Yisod, which I would be surprised because they're evil people. They wanted to scheme. But it's only going to be Chani Vedim Zomen only if it would have been a good Eidos. And if they were apostle now. Here the case is that they were first Hukchash and then they were Huzam. What's the case? So let's say they said that somebody stole. So if they other Eidim come and say that he wasn't robbed. He say well, be the case Ruvain stole from Shimon, and other Eidim will come and say that Shimon was not. It was not. We were with Shimon. We were there, but he think that in the case of the crime, it wasn't stolen. We don't know. I don't know what they did, but they say that the fact is not true. The fact that you said that he stole, it was not stolen from. It wasn't stolen. That's called a kasha. Zama means that they say about the Eidim. I don't know what happened, but you weren't there. I just know that you were. Was
would it be a good definition of huchash?
Denied. Eidim that were denied. The word akasha means to be denied. Eidim that their testimony was found to be a lie. Kachash is a lie. And as far as that, the truth is that it's 2 against 2. 2 Edom came and say that they stole, disputed. In the Tanakh, the word kachash would mean like a lie, right? Okay, so Edom that were found.
It was found that what their testimony was a lie, and then in the end they were Zomamin. I don't know. I don't get it.
So I'm trying to make a case to say the case. The Hukash is not about the people. Hazama is about the people. The case of Hazama is that Edom come and say to the first God of Edom that I don't know what happened, but you weren't there. Edom said that in Yerushalayim, somebody, whatever, contradicted Edom. So the case of Azama was that they talked about not the contradiction of what happened, but that's that you weren't there. Azama means you weren't there. I don't know what happened, but you were, maybe he was told, maybe there was a murder. I don't know, but you weren't there. You were with us in a cafe in Bnei Brak, and I don't know. You can't testify what happened in Yerushalayim. The case of the Akash is that they're testifying about what you said happened in Yerushalayim. It didn't happen in Yerushalayim. It didn't happen over there. We were by the scene of the case that you said something happened, and we were there, and it didn't happen. That's Akasha. By regular Akasha, there's no B'zeres Akasha, but it's 2 against 2. Or make it another case, simpler. There was a loan. 2 Edom said the loan was $100. The other Edom said the loan was $50. That's called Akasha. They're contradicting themselves about what the facts are. Hazama means that they say, I don't know, $100, I don't know anything, but you weren't there. You
didn't
say testimony about something happened.
So you didn't get to the Ula Basof yet, right? You're just taking the first 2 words and explaining that. Am I with you or not?
I just explained now what the Hukrashu means and what Huzmu means. I just say the 2 translations of these 2 words without saying anything happened first or second. I just said what the word Hukrashu means and what the Huzmu means.
I didn't get what
means that there was yes.
Huchashu means you couldn't have testified that because you weren't there. And what does Huzmu mean?
That's what Huzmu means. But you just said now Huzmu means. You weren't there as Huzmu. That's what the case of Zomer is.
You said Huchashu is denying their testimony, that they contradicted their
testimony. Denying so how do you say it in different words? Denying the facts, not the people, not that where the people were. So maybe change the words if you want to. But Huzmu means that you couldn't have testified because you were not there. You Adam were not there. Hukhashu means that they are contradicting the facts that were testified about. Hukhashu is contradicting the facts.
Okay.
I contradicting the present.
That's what I thought you were talking about when you said it was they couldn't have been there. I thought you were talking about
that's the Huzmu part. Right? That's the Huzmu part. Okay. So here the case is now Adam Zomerman is usually they come and say you were not there, and therefore they become Zomerman, and whatever they wanted to scheme, they are punished and they have to do that. Here the case was that everything came against them. Adam Shehukhashu and then Ulabasov Huzmu. Adam came and said Ruvain stole. Other Adam came and said Ruvain did not steal. And therefore there's no Zama yet. That was not a Zama. That was just a contradiction about the facts. And then
but then we can't do anything.
Right. We wouldn't punish. They're not punishable. If you have 2 against 2, they're not punishable for anything.
And we're not gonna believe them about the robbery.
Right.
Gonna make the robber pay.
Right. They are gonna if 2 Adam said that Reuven robbed, and 2 Adam came and said Reuven did not rob, so it's 2 against 2. We're not gonna make anybody pay. But they're not going to be punished either for being false witnesses. But Huzmu, and then other Adam came and said that you were not even there. So is that called the Adam Zoman or not? That's the issue over here. Because the testimony, once it was
who gets killed?
Yes.
Who gets killed?
Okay, it's talking about not about a loan. You're right. It's talking about something serious. It's talking about that Adam came and said that Reuven killed, and he's chayiv misa. And at the end, other Adam came and said Reuven did not kill. And then other Adam came and said not only, I don't know the facts if Reuven killed or not, but you weren't there. So the Adam that said that he killed. The question is, are they going to be killed now? Regular Adam Zomerman are the death penalty, whatever they wanted to do. If they wanted to kill. Whatever they want to do, they wanted to kill. So then they're going to get killed. But over here, besides having Zoma that they weren't there, but the Eidos was first Hukash. Other Eidim came and said that Reuben did not kill. Does that take away the punishment of the Eidim Zomerman because it wasn't a good testimony? We took away their testimony before they became Zomerman. That's
And one can act on it anyway.
we weren't going to act on. We weren't going to act on their testimony, and therefore maybe they shouldn't be killed, even though they were found to be Zomerman.
We're gonna act on their testimony until these other Aiden came.
We were going to, but the Maisa before the Zoma happened, they were knocked down. So whoever says that they are killed, because Akasha Tchilas Azamai, because the contradicting the facts that we found them to be, we have found that people came against the facts that they said. That's the beginning of the process of Azama. Means there's some connection between. It's also making them liars. So even though it's a different kind of a liar, one kind of liar is that the facts are not true. The other kind of liar is that they weren't even there.
Yeah.
It's all considered one bundle, and it doesn't take away the fact that they are being knocked down. And we don't make it that the Eidos was void. It's part of the whole void. Well, we're voiding the Eidos together with Azama. I don't understand the words of this far. I don't get it. And it's two different points. And for one, the Torah said the Chayiv, while the other one, Torah didn't say the Chayiv. So the words just mean that we put it all together, and it's not going to be a reason. Any Rashi on that to explain what the Shulchan. When
Shmamina.
in the Shmamina it says it.
Know what it says? Two said he killed and two said he didn't kill.
That's not kosher. And then later on, we're going to say that they weren't there. I don't see Rashi explaining this far. He just says that you have to see Akasha Tchilas Hazama. It means the fact is that they're going to be Hazama, but the Sfor is the Sfor over here. I don't see Rashi explaining this far. But those are the words. That is considered one big process. And therefore, we don't say that that the Eidos is already off. And therefore, when the Zoman come, it's nothing. Because it was considered one long process. That is the beginning of the process. It just wasn't finished until they also came and said that they were not even there. But it's all considered one nullifying of their Eidos. You don't look at it as it was nullified before the Azama kicked in. So I'm saying it without a svar, I don't know. But in Kitzur, Bava says that if there was even though there was a kasha first, it doesn't take away the punishment from the Eidim Zomer. Amar Rava, what's my proof? So here goes a case about Eved Kanani. We know Eved Kanani that if the master makes fall his tooth or eye, and the Gemara says also other Rosh Yevarim also, so he goes free. Once he's a free man, if somebody damages him, so he has to pay like any free man that gets damaged. So here's the case. Tanya, the Bryce is going to go about how many words? Three lines. And it's not going to make sense. The Gemara is going to say the way it says it doesn't make sense. So if it makes sense, it's good. Tanya, meideni beish ploni shesimei es ein havdo people ashino. I testify. That means two people are testifying that somebody he blinded the eye of his servant, of his slave, and also he knocked out his tooth. Two things: his eye and his tooth. Either one alone is enough to go free. So they're testifying that this Eved goes free, and also that he has to pay for the tooth. Sharei Rav Omer came. Now the words mean and the master says so. Now the master, you might learn all kinds of shatim over here. What the words might mean. The Gemara will say it means, and the Rav is happy about this testimony. The words don't make sense. The Rav is not happy about the testimony. The Rav is losing his Eved and he has to pay for the tooth. That was then Nimtzu Zomerman. And then it comes out that these Eidim who testified, so they weren't even there, they were someplace else, and they have to get punished for whatever they wanted to do. So what would you say? We would think that they would have to pay to the master this price of an Eved plus a tooth. Or maybe that's already included in the price of an Eved.
You're saying because it's the more.
That's what they wanted to do to him.
Well, no, they said eye and a tooth, right?
Right.
You get released for both, or do you?
Either one.
And you pay for either one.
You pay for once he's free. The second one.
Okay, so
You pay for the Eved, the whole thing is included.
You pay him, or you free him, or pay him.
But anyway, once he's free, so again, they said you have to free him, and you're saying you're right. you have to free. They said according to what they said, he has to lose his Eved, plus he also has to pay for it too, because he's already a free man. So that's what the we should have said, that should be the psak, that they do that once they found Zolomon, so they have to pay the master for a full Eved plus the tooth that he would have had to pay for. But the Brisa doesn't say that. It says they paid to the slave the value of his eye. Doesn't make any sense. The Eved, he was going to go free and get paid for a tooth, and I bang him for an eye. Like, what happened over here? Doesn't make sense. The words are not
He's
readable.
supposed to do what he planned to do
To the master, he was going against the master. Eved was very happy. Eved was smiling that he got testimony that he goes free, and also that he gets paid for a tooth. Very happy. And it comes out that it was Zoman. He's still a slave. And now it says that you have to pay to the slave the value of the eye. Like what? It's like Chinese. It doesn't make sense. Hey, Chidami. Well, what's the case? If you take it literally, you take the words the way it says it, the lucky katachrina, there's nobody else. Else these Zaydim came. They must have like three kashas. They have to pay the Eved the value of the eye. After they tried, so they tried very hard for him to get free. Now they have to pay him for his eye. Like they didn't do anything bad to him down in the country. They're trying to get him free, unlawfully, illegally. But that's what they're doing good for him. There's no reason why they should have to pay him. To make they should pay to the master. They wanted to make the Eved go free, and really no reason why he should go free. He didn't knock out. He knocked out his own eye, whatever. To make Kule Eved, that was second kasha. Third kasha, it says in the Brisa that the Rab's happy about this. The Rab's happy about this when they say that the Rab has to lose his slave and also pay for a tooth. Is he happy about this? So the Brisa doesn't make sense. The way you read it doesn't make sense. So you have to stick in some more information into the Brisa that might have been understood, or this was missing, but it has to be a different story.
You can read it that's what the master says. Meaning, what if the master was the one? I mean, it doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, the other kashas anyway wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
But I also read it like you that they're saying they testified that the master said so. And that would be a question: is it called Modu B'Knas, or it's not called Modu B'Knas, or they're just testifying that that's only Modu B'Knas is only in Bezdin. But I guess the Brisa wouldn't make sense anyway. And the Gemara is going to say that it does mean these words. It means who's happy about it, or they're agreeing to the Rav. Means they're agreeing to what the Rav says. That they're coming to testify to back him up, and it doesn't make sense. The Rav is not going to say that. The Rav is not. They're not backing him up. So that's what the Gemara has to put in another case over here. Elulav. It comes a little bit exciting. The question is which order it happened. It means it's not a question if it happened. The question is which order it happened. And that for sure, there are other Edom also. You have to stick in there. The Bryce didn't talk about it, but other Edom first came and said that it was the shame, then the eye. First the tooth. The master knocked out the tooth and the eye. The question only is which order it happened in. What's the difference? It goes free anyway. But what does he get paid for? A tooth is much cheaper than an eye, obviously. So if he first knocked out his tooth and then his eye, he has to pay for the eye. He loses his Eved because he knocked out a tooth. But then he has to pay for the eye. And then other Edom came and said, this Edom that Bryce talks about is the second set of Edom. Second set of Edom came and said it was the opposite order. That first it was the eye, then the tooth. And what's enough Kamina? He goes free anyway. Yeah, but he only gets paid for it too. So that's what the Bryce's case was. Not that they came and Mechadish, and then there was a woman. Yeah, the case was that it's sure going to go free because of the first set of Edom, that's the invisible Edom over here. How the Bryce understood what we're talking about. And they just came and said the Chumrah, Rav Amr came, they were on the side of the Rav and said that the order happened the opposite order. First it was the eye, then the tooth, and I only have to pay for the tooth. Now the Bryce makes sense. The first
Can you pay the more expensive one? Why is it
not more expensive? No, he was free. The first one makes him free. The second one, the first thing when a master knocks, he doesn't pay for it. He just has to make him free. Okay, he goes free. And then now there's a free man. There's somebody damages him like anybody else. He has to pay for it. So the question now, which was the order? That master really did both. He beat him up, whatever, and he knocked out his eye and a tooth. And the question only which the order was. If it was tooth and then the eye, he pays for the eye. If it was the eye, then the tooth pays for the tooth. So here there were a testimony that came first and said that it was the tooth and then the eye, big payment. You got to pay for the eye. And then the other Edom came to help out the Rav. Sharei Rav Omer came. They came to help out the Rav and say that it was the opposite order. It was the eye and then the tooth. They only has to pay for a tooth. And then they were found Zomerman. Listen, you see the words inside. The The boy basically harav the meyeno. First two Adam came before. It doesn't say in the Brisa. Two Adam came and said that first he knocked out his tooth and then he knocked out his eye. And in that case, the rabbi has to pay for the eye. And then the Brisa kicks in. Then another two Adam, the middle Adam. They call middle because it's going to be the first Adam, and the last Adam are going to be the Zomerman that you weren't there. But now the next set of Adam came. That the opposite was the order was the opposite. First he knocked out his eye, then he knocked out his tooth. The low brother the they only have to pay for the tooth. He only has to pay for the tooth. At that point, there was a kasha between the first set of Adam and the second set of Adam. And there won't be the psaket bezin at that time. Only have to pay for the tooth because it's a suffix. If 2 against 2, does he have to pay for eye or for a tooth? So you don't know. 2 against 2. So only have to pay for the tooth. And then came. That's what makes sense in the Brisa that the Rab says so. The Nichel Levi Ma'id the Kamri. He's happy with that. They're saying he only has to pay for a tooth, not for an eye. Now what does it say? But him Su Zomerman. Mitziyoi, Mishalman, Demei, Ayin, Le'ever. It says in the Brisa in this case that the Zomerman, if they became Zomerman, this middle group over here, they have to pay for the eye because they want to take away the eye, the value of the eye from the Eved. The Eved was supposed to get paid, reimbursed for his eye, and I was only get reimbursed for the tooth. So now it says in the price that they have to pay. Since they made them Zomerman, so they have to pay to the Eved the value of the eye. What does the Gemara see from this? You see that even though they were hukchash before, it doesn't take away from the fact that they're still Zomerman. What's the Gemara's proof? Even before the Zomerman came, it was 2 against 2. It was 2 against 2. 2 Adam said that the Chayiv to pay for the first Adam, that the invisible Adam that came first, they were Chayiv to pay for the eye. And they said no longer have to pay for the tooth. So it's already 2 against 2. If you wouldn't say like Rabbi Svidish of Akasha Chilas Azama, so then you shouldn't be Mechayiv them for being Zomerman because there's already Akasha against them. They're already being contradicted. And if they're being contradicted, so then maybe you can make them into Zomerman. Does anybody agree with this? The Gemara sees, even though they would have succeeded with their. They would have succeeded. They would have succeeded in knocking it down from the eye to the tooth. The Eidim Bezin had testimony that the Eved has to be paid. The master has to pay the value of the eye. And these Eidim came, knowing that they're not going to be Mukhash because they're the second. They're arguing with the first Eidim that are there, and they're saying it's only the value of a tooth, and they're going to win. They're not going to win because we believe them more. They're going to win because it's 2 against 2. Bezin can't make the master pay the value of a eye because the way them say it's only a tooth, but it's still called Akasha. And the Gemara is asking if you say that Akasha now, since there's an Eidim 2 against 2, so then we can't treat them as Zomerman, so they shouldn't be high to pay for the Zomerman. It must be right that it's that they say Akasha Tchilas Azama, and therefore they do have to pay for the eye. I think the difficulty at this point is Akasha Tchilas Azama means if the Akasha would have knocked down the Eidos, but here the Akasha didn't knock down the Eidos. This was our problem in Pinchas. In this case, Rabbi brought a raya from the eye with the tooth in the eye. And the Gemara is saying, you see, Akasha Tchilas Azama, well, you wouldn't have to pay for the eye. Even though, why? Because the first Adam said they have to pay for an eye, and they said they only pay for a tooth. And they would have been successful with their Eidos. It would have been 2 against 2, and the Basin wouldn't be able to make him pay for the eye, only for the tooth. They would have been successful. But the Gemara says, no, Akasha Lav Tchilas Azama, so then they shouldn't be high for being Zomerman.
Rav, what's Matsiyoi?
Mitzvah means the middle set of Adam. There's like Bava Kamma, Emtza. So the first Adam came and said that it first happened the tooth and then the eye. And then the middle set of Adam came and said it's the eye and then the tooth. And then the last set of Adam said that you are Bnei B'Rav. And the Gemara is asking that why should these Adam that are compound Zomerman have to pay for the value of the eye that they wanted to take away from the Eved? They were already hukhash because it was 2 Adam against them who said that they have to pay the eye. And they said only pay for the tooth.
And it's because the set of Adim are nullifying their not the facts of their testimony, but them themselves.
Yes, but that's Zomerman. That's why they should have to pay for whatever they wanted to do. What did they want to do? They wanted to make him lose the value of the eye. And the Rabbi was asking, but there was Akasha. There was already 2 against 2 even before we came. Even before the Zomerman, even before the Mazimim came, it was already 2 against 2. So these Edom that are being now accused as being Edom Zoman, they say it's true, we were bad planners, but it was already two against. We was already two Edom that were contradicting us. Before we were proven Zoman, there was already an Edom against us that said that we have to pay an eye. And so why should we have to pay? So this is a figure.
We're acting upon that thing.
Right. So even though that's a kasha, but they would have been successful in there, even with that kasha. But the Gemara looks at it that if you say that kasha is not Tchilas Azama, so we should have knocked down that they shouldn't have to pay for that Azama. This is Rabba's Raya. So he proves from here that even if the kasha did knock down their Edus, the Edom came first, and they were strong Edus. But wasn't going to accept them; they were going to kill. And then Edom came and said he did not kill. So we're not going to kill. So really, they made the Edus worthless. And then then they had Mazimim come. So Rabbi said, we are going to kill them anyway. So the Raya of Rabbi, the Chor is a Chiddush that I said would be a good Raya. I would think that this kind of Akasha is not Akasha because it didn't stop their Edus from doing what they wanted to do. But the Gemara seems to put it in the same basket. I don't understand so well. Amar Abaye lo, Abaye says it's not so. And Abaye can knock down the Raya. The Chor is arguing on the Yesod. He's only going to argue on the Raya. He's not going to adopt to say differently than Rava. Somebody saying it's not a good Raya. And he says, I can explain the Brisa differently. The Brisa says something that didn't make sense. The way the Brisa presented the case, that Adam came and said he knocked down his eye, knocked down his tooth. The Rav is happy with that, and you have to pay to that, but it doesn't make sense. Because it doesn't make sense. Rav had to invent the invisible first cut that said first it was the tooth and then the eye, and they came and said eye, then the tooth, etc. And then we proved because of that it was Hakfasha, and still you see that he has to pay for the Azama. But gets punished for the Azama, you see Hakfasha Tchilas Azama. Abai says not necessarily so. I can explain the Brisa differently. The Avkinu v'Azminu, the short little teretz, 2 words. Avkinu v'Azminu. There were no invisible Edom. They were the first Edom that came, and they said the tooth and then the eye and then the tooth. They were the first ones that spoke up, and they said he has to let him free, and he has to pay for the tooth, just for the tooth.
Sorry, what do the
Edom's
words
own
mean?
came. Yes, please.
What do the words mean? The 2 words.
Afkinu, sorry. Thank you very much for always reminding me. Afkinu means that they switched it around. Afkinu means they flipped it, like Lashon of Hafuch means opposite, and they also were Muslim then. The first Edom came what it says in the Brisa. We'll emphasize that this Brisa over here. What the Brisa does say was Loni Simei say not they be able to. That's testimony that the Edom came. Other Edom came now and said it was the opposite. First of all, it was the opposite. It was first the tooth and then the eye. And he has to pay him for the eye. And also you weren't there. Avchinu, they said the opposite. And they also said you weren't there. The Rava, in order to explain this price, which doesn't make sense, he said there must be invisible Edom beforehand that said the opposite. And Abai says it's not necessary. You could say that leave the Brisa the way it is. And the Edom, when the Edom came and said you weren't there before that, they also said that it's the opposite of what you said.
But it had. Teresa being used to the haters.
Right.
That was the cost.
And also,
So they tried to be Machayim. Right,
the Brisa doesn't make sense at all. Right. So here it makes sense. Now Sharei Rav Omer Cain, the Rav is happier that the tooth should have been. Nobody said anything yet, but the Rav is happy because he knows. Let's say he knows the truth. He knows that the truth is that it was the eye and then it was the tooth and the eye. And these Edom came, the first Edom, and they came and said that it was the eye and then the tooth. So he's very happy about that. He said, "Who knows what have happened? Edom might have come and said the truth." So these Edom came and helped him out and said that it was the tooth and then the eye. And then they was Zomer, but besides from Zomer, they not only saying that you're Neighbor and you were not there, B'chlal, they also said that it was the opposite order. It was first the tooth and then the eye. How does that help? What?
So now they're witnesses to this. So now they're like the brand new Edom.
They're in a way, them right.
Only they're making an Azomim, they're also
Right.
witnesses to the case itself.
Right. And that takes away Rabbi's Raya. Now you don't see a Kashat Chilas Azama. Why? What?
It's happened at the same time.
Even though the order that it says was Hakasha and then Azama, it was Vamashim Abchinu Vazminu. Kumar could have said Zminu Vakashinu, no? the way it says it, it's they were first makish them. What did Abaye help by this way? He stopped says it this way.
It's one less set of witnesses, therefore it's not two, then it's not 2 versus 2.
It's not one.
It's not 2 versus 2 because it's not, there's no third set of witnesses, it's only 2 sets of witnesses.
Yes, but it's not.
Exactly.
But is it not the case of a? It's a simple case of a hakosha and then azama. They first said it's wrong, so that's
So
hakosha.
you're saying the first time you guys weren't there, and the information was wrong. I thought that was the point of that order.
But it doesn't say that. I would have liked that. It should have said that. It should have said das minu v'afchinu.
Okay.
But it says afchinu v'azminu, and that the Gemara says it's not a raya to it's not a raya to chashat chilas azama.
Is it all said in the same English? It's like the Hebrew, I think.
Straight out or not, that you're still getting this.
Yeah, that's just textbook.
They talks about it.
Yeah.
Where's that?
It's like the fourth line of Texas.
What line from the wide lines?
Yeah, I'm not by you.
Let me make this on the screen.
On the streets.
You know what I mean? Go from the beginning.
So,
Again, fourth line, the second
the
page.
third line of this.
Tell me where to read from. What do you see?
Four line on the right. Moving your fingers one line down. Yes. Love.
Lav dafke no ken Abaye. Afkinu tchila the imken yikhshilu. Ela meikar is minu vad afkinu. Okay, as one theory says that the Gemara should be read the opposite. Mamish, the main point that Abaye is trying to say, he said lav dafka. That's pretty. It really means to say mamish what the Shol said, that it was zminu v'afkinu. That's the main answer. That the zam was first before the akasha, and Abaye left out. They got lav dafka, the most important point. Inami meikar afkinu v'azminu torkei dibur, like Rav Nissi said, that torkei dibur is also considered the same thing.
In the order more important for this talk today.
You torkei dibur. You look at all as one unit. Okay. That's Abaye's dichoy to Rabba's Ryan. That maybe akasha, if they would have been hukash first, maybe there wouldn't be azama. And the case here was that akasha was afterwards or together. So it's not a raya. I guess we should stop here. How much further can we go? Is it long raya now? It's about 10 more lines. Abaye's going to prove. Abaye's going to prove that you have to say my pshat, not your pshat. I'm not sure if it's going to be simple. Maybe we'll try to get it, and if not, we'll come back tomorrow. Either way, we'll come back tomorrow from here. But just to go a little further, how could I prove that the case is that there were no first invisible Laden? The Sefer says the exact opposite case. With the Sefer. With the Sefer, there's another Sefer we didn't learn yet. The Sefer, the next case in the Bryce over there, has to be the way I said it. That it was Afchinu Vazminu. That it was no invisible Laden first. It was the only what the Edom came said first, and then the Mazimim also said the opposite. So since I can prove the next case this is the case, so the first case also must be so. What's the Sefer? Titani Sefer. The Sefer says exactly opposite case. Yidanu me'idenu esish ploni shepelas shein avdo v'sime eseno shareya eved omer came v'nimsu zomamen v'shalman es me'ayin l'rav. That's under the Brisa. It says that the Edom came and said they testify against this master that he knocked out his slave's tooth and blinded him. Here it says tooth and then the eye. And the Eved is happy about that. He is happy about that. Either way, it goes free. And the question is, and he's even happier because the eye was second, so he's going to get paid for his eye, not only for a tooth. They have to pay the value of the eye to the Rav because they wanted to make him pay the Dmei Eina. Here it's not such a bad case. The other case makes sense that the Eved is happy about it, and they have to pay the Rav. It's a little bit closer to understandable, but still the Gemara says, if the second Adam, the Mazimim, they don't agree to anything. They say that they didn't do anything, not an eye, not a tooth. So to make Kuli ever the Rabbi Shlumi, then they should have to pay not only the price of the eye, they should have to pay the price of the whole Eved because they wanted to make him lose an Eved that he didn't deserve to lose. He didn't do anything. Somebody else, the neighbor, did it. Now I didn't do anything. Ella Pshita, the Kamodu Kulu B'Chavola. It must be that the Edim Zimim, the Mazimim, they also agree that the master has to let his Eved go free because he did one of these things. Which one did he do? They did the opposite one. It must be that they came and said, well, it was the opposite order. You can stop here. And the Gemara says at this point you're supposed to know that this is a proof to Abai and not to Rava. Rava said that the invisible lady, I say invisible lady, I mean to say that the price I didn't mention them, but there before the story, the prehistoric, before the Brisa said this story, there was a story before that they came and said the opposite order. And Abai says that this Sefer must show that that's not the Pshat. The Pshat of the Brisa is not that the Adam said the opposite first, but that the Mazimim themselves, they said the opposite. It was not case 1, 2, and 3. It was only what we call 2 and 3. And how does he prove it? The Gemara is leave something out.
Because it's the option at the end is explaining the eye. Therefore, it was either going to be the eye or tooth. So it was never going to be about the fact that he was injured.
No,
It was never going to be about paying. Meaning that there's truth to what they were saying.
yes, but
what was the
right? But maybe say Rabbi will say, "What's the problem?" I say my same shot that there were Adam that first came the opposite order. At first, Adam came and said the eye and then the tooth, and then these Adam came and said tooth and then the eye. So they were mafsid the master. They wanted to be mafsid the master.
Well, no, but they were going to be Adam Zomim.
And then also Adam Zoman. Then Adam Zoman said that whole thing is not true, right? Let's say Rabbi's shot. Rabbi would have said in this case that first Adam came and said the eye and then the tooth. And then these Adam, the wicked Adam, they came and they said it was the tooth and then the eye. And then they were found Zoman. Then they were found Zoman. Right?
Right.
So what would you say? That they wanted to make the master lose the price of the value of the eye, of the eye, right. They only would have, according to the true Adam, they only would have paid for a tooth. And now these bad Adam came and they said that they have to pay the value of the tooth. So you have to pay for the eye. That's what the Bible says. What's the problem? What do you see in the Sefer that's against me? So the Gemara leaves us hanging. The Gemara said we're supposed to understand it again. We're supposed to understand how Abai proves his point. So I didn't understand. So Rashi helps us. Here's the Rashi. That it was an invisible agent that came before. Because שישנו בכלל דמי עין של אחרונים, אפילו נמצאו אלו אחרונים ולהבים מחייבות. ואינם זומנים משחייב מהשיקום מדין על פיהם. If the case would have been like Rabba, it wouldn't make sense. That's what Rashi is explaining. It wouldn't have made sense to say by Rabba's pshat. Rabba's pshat was that here would have been that the first Adam came and said first was the eye and then the tooth. And then the second Adam came and said it was the tooth and then the eye. Would Bezdin have acted upon their Adams?
Yes, it's not.
No, they wouldn't have acted because what would they have said? You have to pay for the tooth, for the eye. The other Adam said it's 2 against 2. Without the zone, not zone, before zone.
So you're not playing the zone, you're saying that the order switched.
Right.
Therefore, you have to
pay for the. Pay for the. No. If you have 2 against 2, what do you do? Yeah, you can't take out money when it's 2 against 2.
Nobody would.
2 against nobody might because here this safer case was that the first Adam would have said first eye then the tooth. You only have to pay for a tooth. And the second Adam came and said no, you have to pay for an eye. Doesn't wouldn't have been an eye because it's 2 against 2. Because you have to pay for an eye for a tooth. They wouldn't make him pay for the eye. So
there was they said that Buddha had to pay for the tooth. When it's 2 versus 2, they square and they
2 against 2. You don't listen to the. It's nothing.
It's a washout.
Oh, so you pay for the tooth even?
Or what is it? Or you pay for the tooth even? Or everyone agrees.
The tooth is not so. Yeah, everyone agrees. Okay, but the tooth is not the issue.
Then what it said, you pay for the eye.
Yes, and it doesn't make sense.
Right.
And it doesn't make sense. Rabba's can't read it over here. Rabba's shot that put in the visible wouldn't make sense. In the first case where the first Adam came and said the tooth and then the eye, and then the second Adam came and said the eye and then the tooth. So then Bezdin is very impressed with them that now it's 2 against 2, and we can make before till now we were going to make him pay for the eye, and now that it's 2 against 2, we can. So they accomplished with their Adus, and then when the Zomanim come, you have to pay because you made him lose the value of the eye. But in the second case, the Rabbi can't say it's pshat because if it was first the eye and then the tooth, and then the second Aiden came and said tooth and the eye, their Aedis wouldn't have accomplished anything because it would be 2 against 2. He couldn't. The person can't act on their Aedis. So their Zomerman, when they found later they were someplace else, it's not gonna be responsible for that because they wouldn't have accomplished anything anyway. So Bali proves there must be my case that there were no invisible Adim over here. There was no first cat, and these came Adim first, and they said it was the tooth and then the eye, and then the other Adim come and say it was the opposite. And also you were with us also. So there they were going to accomplish. They were going to make the guy lose the managed to lose the value of the eye. So by proofs is pshat, and it's not raya takashat filas azam because the zama was first over him. We'll do it again, Bezim, tomorrow when I understand it better.
Again, it's the initial case. They said it was
Initial case means
the eye, and then the second set of idioms say no, it
it was
was
the eye and then the two. So they succeeded in making business pshat go down.
The psak would have been you
Only
gotta
pay,
the two.
yeah, not eye,
There's two, but you gotta pay the two.
right,
Okay.
and not the eye. They accomplished in taking out, yeah. Okay. Special cooking. Thank you. The thanks goes to Pinchas. I didn't get it.
Clarify, also, this is 2 separate beatings or one?
2 separate.
Beatings.
That doesn't make a difference.
If it's in one beating, it doesn't make a difference?
No, that's whichever one happened first.
Oh, really?
Because he wasn't a beat, it could be he was an eye doctor and he was a tooth doctor, and that thing talks about those. Even if he didn't mean to have, he didn't have to have any evil. That's the machlokas of Shimon Gamliel. If he didn't have any evil intent, does he have to pay for that also? That's machlokas. If he didn't mean to get the eye, also
It was one hit.
yeah. But which one happened first? Saying it could happen both simultaneously. So then,
It would, and also if he did slave, is he not a free person yet? Or
Or-
he wouldn't have to pay,
One
or
fit of rage.
oh, you see that it doesn't. The second thing he has to pay for, even that doesn't need a star shikra for that as far as that goes. As soon as he damages one of the Russian Vorim, he goes free, and now if he hits him again, if he does, he has to pay for that like a regular premium.
Hits him with talk to the Dibor that he loses his
Talk to the is also going to be all the same. So yeah. Talk to the Dibur talks about where does it come from. I didn't mention this. I said what?
in one fit of rage, one action.
The Chor doesn't make it. The Chor now. I said I was going to mention it. I didn't mention it. The Talk to the Dibur says a pshat that maybe Talk to the Dibur. How come Talk to the Dibur? Why should it be like that? So Taisa says a pshat, but Taisa says right away knocks it off. That it could be because in some cases somebody's going to be in the middle of saying something, and then somebody's going to pass by and has to say hello to him, or the Rebbe's going to pass by and he has to greet him, and what's he going to do? Like he's in the middle of a deal, and then he wants to have but the Rebbe passed by, he has to say hello, and he's going to be stuck with the deal. He wants to real. So they said that Talk to Dibur doesn't affect anything, and you can come back and say it again. But Taisa says it can be because you find cases where it has nothing to do with that. Even as a case, extreme case, Taisa brings that somebody thought that a relative is dying. He thought he died, and he told Korea. He was still alive. And then talk to the Dibur, the person died. Says Yosef Korea. Even and the Gemara said also before, like backwards. Even Al says backwards. You go over talk to the Dibur backwards also. So it's Yosef Korea because it's talk to the Dibur is considered 1 unit of time. It doesn't have to do with technicalities about giving him time. It means that that's 1 unit of time.
I
And
don't
we
know.
look at it as one.
I didn't even get the whole thing. Mechates, you have the right to be chayza, even if it's within a second. Where do you learn this? You say that you could do.
Yeah, I don't know if he learned it. Well, it means that it's a svara that a person doesn't have Yisha, that doesn't mean what he says until he gives it a stamp of approval by waiting 3 seconds.
What she says.
Because that's what everybody is. Saying a person shouldn't talk until he thinks.
Yeah.
And here it says a person talks, and then he thinks for a second. And then he says, I mean it.
I just go back to you from email. You have like 2 seconds
Oh,
to
no.
delete. But I don't know what would be.
And it's like only like a very short time.
I don't know.
It's like 2 seconds. Can adjust it.
And you can
Oh, yeah?
adjust it.
Yeah.
You could adjust it.
It
But
depends
the
if you
default is very, very
short.
short. Very short, very, very short. Why they give, they should give, no? Even that, even
No, but mechates is
even if you did not mistake, until you have your mistake, it takes give him 5 seconds. The answer is that the default is people are in a rush. They usually don't
Even
make
that
mistakes.
generation. Interesting. It's usually people.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sex to no guy. I'm here for it.
And sometimes different embarrassing time can happen in the sense of
Especially with automatic, it writes for you things you didn't mean.
yeah, no, I had this a number of times. I don't
Somebody
know.
told me a story that he sent it. Somebody had invited him for something. A festival place invited him for something, and he said, "I'm busy now. I'll call you back in an hour."
Automatic message.
What?
Automatic like a message.
Automatic and something like that, whatever. And they called up and all, did we do anything wrong and this and that? All he didn't know what happened. My Quran was about. He looked at it. He said, "I'm busy now. Call me back in a year." True story. It was with the army, like it was like.
So woman told me she wrote there some this limits us, and you got just the love us.
Oh, you.
A lot of gains with the computers, but a lot of losses also.